Hey fifth graders, here with a short video lesson for you today. Today we are going to talk all about variables. Now variables is often what I kind of call this unit overall, because really this unit is all about how do scientists do science, and we do it by changing variables. Now variables are things that can change in an experiment, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this camera around and point it at my desk here, so that way we can do some guided notes together. Once you're done with that, you're going to have an ed puzzle to do. It shouldn't take you more than the 20 to 30 minutes though. It's just all about variables and then identifying our independent, dependent, and controlled variables. If this is a little confusing this first time around, don't worry about it. We're going to come back to it over and over and over again. We're going to talk about our variables in all of our experiments that we're going to do when you guys are at home and we go virtual. So let's go ahead and get this started. Here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this around. All right, so there's my little workspace that I have. You go ahead and move my computer so you're not seeing no one recording. All right, so in front of us here, get that out of the way. We've got our piece of paper, and if this is really hard for you to read from this distance, I will go ahead and upload, of course, I will upload a picture of our final notes here as well. We're just going to try this thing because this is a little new for us. Hopefully that works out okay. Okay. So we are going to call this page variables. Oh boy, that is a little small. Let me see if I can get us a little closer here. Bear with me. Alright, that should work a little bit better there. Okay, so variables, there we are. Okay, so again, variables are things that can change in an experiment. That's kind of the overall title of variables. Things that have the capability of changing in an experiment. Things that can change in an experiment. Now, there are lots of things that can change at any one time. However, we as scientists, when we want to study something, we want to make sure that we are only focusing on one thing at a time. Otherwise, it's really hard to determine what makes the difference, right? This is what a control experiment is, where we only change one thing at a time, one variable at a time. So there are three kinds of variables that we're going to talk about today. The first of which is our independent variable. Independent variable. Now your independent variable, sometimes we just end up shorting it to IV. Your independent variable is what is being tested in an experiment. This is the thing that we as the scientists control or change. Okay, so again, this is being tested in an experiment. This is what we, as the scientists, control or change. So, for example, when we just did our egg experiment here in class, we changed one thing. Everything else remained the same, right? The one thing that we changed was what substance we put our eggs in, right? So sometimes we put it in, or one time we put it in Mountain Dew or ketchup or corn syrup. That was what we changed, was the independent variable, was the solution that the eggs were in. That was our independent variable. Now another kind of variable is our dependent variable. Now sometimes we shorten that to DV. Okay, your dependent variable This is the thing that changes based on the independent variable changing. So what I like to say is ask yourself, what are we measuring? That's usually what your dependent variable is. Okay, so your dependent variable changes based on the independent variable changing. So again, what we are measuring. Oops. So in our egg experiment, we measured the mass of each egg, right? So our solution was our independent variable. That's what we were changing on purpose. Your dependent variable is what you're measuring. We measured the weight. This is the thing that we are trying to find out. Okay. And then lastly, the last kind of type of variable are our control variables. Now, your controlled variables are things that you keep the same in an experiment. So there are things that they could change, but we keep them the same on purpose. Things you keep the same in an experiment. So again, going back to our egg experiment, we had our independent variable was the solution. Our dependent variable, what we measured, was the mass. And then we kept a lot of things the same. We kept the type of cup. We kept the timing of everything. We kept the temperature the same. Kept them all in the same room. Used the same type of eggs, right? All of those are things that could change in the experiment, but we chose to keep them the same. Now, in a controlled experiment, you're going to have one independent variable. You only change one thing at a time. You're going to have one dependent variable, one thing that you measure at a time. But controlled variables, you're going to have lots of those. Okay? And a lot of times you're going to have lots of these in order to make sure you only have one thing changing in your experiment, to make sure you only have one independent variable. Now, like I said, we're going to go through a lot of different examples of these. You're about to watch an Edpuzzle that has a few examples of these as well. One more that we can talk about is if you're in person with us as a hybrid student, what we did was we dropped a basketball and a volleyball from the balcony to see which one would bounce higher. Right? Our independent variable is what we were changing. The only thing that changed between those two things are the type of object, the basketball or the volleyball. That's our independent variable, is the type of object. Our dependent variable, what did we measure? The height of the bounce. And then the controlled variables. Dropped them from the same height at the same time. I dropped them, I didn't throw them, so I didn't use any extra force. They were both in the same spot, both hitting the same type of ground, right? It's not like one was on carpet and one was on tile. So we kept a lot of the things the same. But we did change one thing on purpose, and we measured one other thing. So again, we're going to do lots of practice with these words. This is just a nice introduction, something we can go back to as we make our notes. So thank you for today. Again, hopefully you're pausing along the way if I'm writing a little too quick. I'll upload a picture as well in case it's hard to read any of the things seen there. So thank you. Talk to you soon.